Thank you for tuning in to the On the Gold podcast. Today, in our continuing series of conversations with professional prospector Chris Ralph, we're going to be talking about revisiting old spots versus getting out and searching for the new. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
This is one of those topics that when you sent it over, I went, wow, we absolutely have to cover this one because it is really important. And a lot of it has to do with mindset and confidence and all the other things that go along with it. And it's simply revisiting old spots versus getting out and exploring for new spots. What's your take on that?
Hey, this is a big deal. I think I was saying that this is something that, in my experience, has turned some very successful prospectors into very unsuccessful, or basically guys that give up. And, if you have success in a place, usually the gold just doesn't grow back. And I've known people who have had some success in a spot.
I'm sorry. I apologize. The gold doesn't grow back. I love that.
That's an old one.
I know. It's just I haven't heard the gold doesn't grow back in years. So thank you. I'm sorry. Continue. I apologize.
Well, it doesn't grow back. And so guys, I've heard plenty of stories of guys who go out and have some success and then they go back and maybe they're not quite as successful, but they still get some decent gold. And then they go back again and they're not doing that great. And then, the next time is less and pretty soon they're getting zero or almost zero. And then they just get discouraged and give up. And I have to confess that, revisiting old spots, it's true that a spot is never 100% worked out, but the old timers took the easiest stuff, and
Sure.
then the people after them took the next easiest stuff. And when we go to a place, we take the easiest stuff we can find, and it just gets harder and harder and more hidden and more difficult to see. And it takes a certain amount of getting out and exploring new places to balance that off. Now, I have to confess, this summer I spent a lot of time at a place that really I did my best at about 5 years ago. We got, I think I got a 5 years or so ago at this spot. I think I ended up with a couple ounces for the summer, which, hey, that's not too bad.
That's not bad.
And, but I came back this year, or actually I came back at the end of 2018, at the very, very end. I think it was the last day I was out prospecting in 2018 before the weather just got too cold and wet and snowy and that sort of thing. And I went and detected a hole that I dug in years before. And there was a tree that had died and it literally had kind of blocked my way. I was detecting and digging and dry washing in this spot, and this tree had kind of blocked my way, and I didn't want to kill it, but nature had killed it in the meantime. So I kind of yanked on it a couple of times because it was a dead tree now, and the roots broke, and I tossed it was about a 4-inch diameter trunk. I tossed the thing aside and detected in the wall of the pit there that was kind of hidden by the tree and its roots. And sure enough, I got a couple of nuggets out of that and decided, I'm going to have to come back here in 2019 and do some more digging. And well, I did. And I just, every time I came back there, I kept getting a little more, I kept getting enough gold that it kept my interest. And I kept thinking, well, let's try this, or let's do this thing different. And I would do something different and I would get some gold. But, at the end of the summer, I think I got a 1/4 ounce dry washing and about the same metal detecting. It wasn't nearly as good as I'd done a few years before. And now toward the end of that, it was, petering out more and more. So you got to get out and explore new places, because if you don't get out and explore new places, you're not going to make those new finds, not going to make those big finds. Even though going out to new places, it's work to research it, and then confidence shaking to go out and try and find gold where you don't know that there is any gold there, not anything that you can recover.
Yeah. I spend the summertime doing research because it's 120 degrees, and on the average, I come up with about 20 new areas that I want to go hunt and get out and prospect and just take a look at it. And I'll drag a lot of equipment out there just to go out. And that's, that's just my MO. But I would say that right now I've been real lucky because I've been doing really, really hardcore drill down research, and I'm getting about 2 out of 5 where I'll find a little bit of gold. But if I don't do that much research, it might be 1 out of 10. And so when you said confidence at the end of this, I want to throw something out as well. When you go back to that spot that you just constantly have gone back to the last 5 years, do you do it because you really want to go out and find the gold, or do you do it because you need to know that you can still find the gold? Is it a confidence point of my equipment's working, I'm working, everything that's going is working, and if I go out and I find a little bit of gold here because I've been skunked on a few others, is it confidence, or is it just, you know what, I know I'm going to get something?
I think it's all of the above. I have confidence, and where the place where you've already found gold, you think, well, I haven't tried XYZ before, so maybe I'll go in and try this different thing.
Right.
Or, I didn't roll any of these boulders aside in this old digging, so I'm going to roll some of these boulders aside and see if there's anything underneath them. You try different techniques and things that you have. And like I say, with this place, I had just enough success to keep me coming back and thinking, well, I could try this when I go up there next time. And so I was getting gold. But I could have been out exploring new places, but then again, I might have gone out to those new places and, done a swing and a miss. So you never know. Going out and exploring really is good for the prospector. It's part of the essence of what prospecting is. And so, you get out there and explore these new places, but it does test your confidence. You don't know what you're going to find, if anything. And sometimes it takes more than one effort to find a place.
Right.
I got a place in Nevada that I've been interested in for years. And I'm certainly not going to say where this is, but there's a little old mining camp that was worked and supposedly produced some really significant amounts of high grade. And I went up there years ago, it's more than 10 years ago, that I tried to find this place. And I got up there and found some workings. Didn't really fit exactly the description that I'd read of it, but it was pretty close. And sometimes, when you do research and read about descriptions, the descriptions, when you get out in the field, it's maybe close, but not quite what you envisioned after reading what you were, doing in your research. I got out there and I took some samples of what I thought was the ore, because I had in the old report, they described what the ore looked like. And I took the samples and brought them home and crushed them up. And there was hardly a speck of gold in there. I mean, just almost nothing. And so I was kind of discouraged. But, today there's so much more available on the internet for doing that kind of super drill down research that you were talking about. One of my friends and I were talking about this place, and I said, yeah, it sounded really great, but when I got out there just wasn't much of anything. Well, he was looking on the internet and said, not very far from where I think you took those samples, here's another area of a bunch of workings. And I looked on the Google Earth, and we both agreed that I had been close to what the place that I wanted to find was, but that this other place that he found on Google Earth was the actual mine that produced the high grade. And actually, when we went back and reread the old report, it said, oh yeah, there's a number of prospects around there with ore that looks almost exactly the same, but only the one mine has the high grade. Everything else has. So apparently I found the ones that didn't have the high grade. And so this spring, we're going to go back up there and see if we can find the workings with the high grade. Now I have GPS coordinates and Google Earth to show me. And when I went 15 years ago, Google Earth was not that useful.
Well, yeah.
So getting out exploring is a big deal, and you've got to do it. And it's part of the essence of prospecting, because the gold just doesn't grow back. You get out there and explore and you mine gold and you're successful, but you keep getting less and less and less. It doesn't grow back. And then you got to get out and check out those new places.
As you said, the essence of prospecting, the absolute essence of what we do, and at the core of us is that never give up. We're always going to go out there and we're always going to look for something. That's what we do. It's how we got to the point where we are, and how we're able to help other people and so on. Now, when we talk about new places, I just talked about, I hit maybe 2 out of 5 if I'm really, really lucky and I've done enough research. But now let's talk about how many times do you go to a new place before you just say, you know what, this is a swing and a miss? Because I don't have a particular number, but I don't just go to a place one time and say, wow, okay, this is really great. Should have just brought the picnic basket, had a picnic here, and gone on to somewhere else. What are your rules, or what are your rule of thumbs for a new place?
It depends on how it looks. If it looks really good, then I'm way more likely to come back. But sometimes, even if it doesn't look that good, maybe the old report will sound so good. There's a place in Northern California that was described in an old report as kind of being like a mesa top. They're not so common in the Sierras as they are in Arizona.
No.
And a flat topped hill. And it said that some guys found some really high grade quartz up there, and they thought that there was some good coarse gold. And so I went up there with a friend, actually with Steve Hirschbach, and I went up there and explored around and spent a day, and we didn't find a darn thing.
Right.
So a couple years go by, and I decided, there's different ways to approach this, flat top of a hill. You can approach it from different directions, and because there's a couple of roads up there. And I thought, nah, I'm going to try this other direction. And I went up the other direction, and by gum, I got several small nuggets. That has become the most frustrating patch that I've ever found. There's no workings whatsoever on the ground. And I've found probably, I don't know, friends and I probably have found now a 1/4 ounce of nuggets, but I can't seem to put anything together. It's an area where there's scattered nuggets here and there on a flat topped hill. And it's just kind of weird.
And there's just no reason for it to be there other than they simply are there.
The only thing that the one friend that I've taken up there, because it took Steve, we didn't find anything. Later, when after I found stuff, I took another friend up there. And we have come to the conclusion there's some rounded quartz boulders up there, not boulders, big cobbles.
Right.
And it's my guess that there probably was an old tertiary channel that existed, and that top is part of the bottom of the river. That's why it's flat, like some of the tertiary channels are. But all the walls and virtually all the gravel have gone away. There's just a few nuggets left in the soil.
Wow, what an absolutely cool place to stumble across.
Yeah, it's. I wish I could figure out which direction the tertiary channel was going, because I follow that trend. But I don't know, and there's no walls or sides or anything else. I don't know. I guess could wander around and try and look for those quartz cobbles, and figure that they kind of marked the line of where it was going.
Right.
But it's a cool area, and it's not hard to get to. And so, and it's produced some decent gold. So you got to go back sometimes, even if it's the descriptions are good, sometimes it takes a couple of swings before you give up on a spot. But I've given up on spots. I've gone back to places a couple of times and been unsuccessful, and said, okay, I can't find anything there. I'll set that one aside for now.
Right. I go out to an area with kind of a punch down list, which is just the way my mind works. I almost need that punch down list, because for anybody that knows me, they know that I am really ADD, and I will ball squirrel anything. So I carry a punch down list with me. I have the list of what I'm looking for, but I'm also, after I get through that list, now I'm going to stop and I'm going to look around and go, okay, now what am I not looking for? And what am I going to see when I quit looking for something? And those are actually the ones that have always paid off for me a little bit better. Is you go out with your list, and then when you just start looking at the big picture, then yeah, it most of the time for me that's when it starts to happen, and then it all falls back into place. You can't continually go to the same spot expecting it to get better, because if it's not going to get better from all the reports and everything else, it's just not going to get better.
But the balance of that is you do have to have the confidence to go out and look at things, and the ability, like you were talking about, to look at things that you weren't looking for. I had a guy tell me one time, and I got a lot of respect for him. He said that the essence of exploration is looking at what everybody else sees and seeing something different.
Yes.
And so, when you have that ability to look at what everybody else is looking at and see something that they're missing, then you become a good prospector.
Yes. And sometimes that is the simplest things. And it's, it may not be a geological structure. It may not be, it may be something as simple as look where you've had water flow and suddenly realizing that there's a few blades of grass that have laid down in a particular direction, and you start following that, and you get into some gold, and because it's just a perk area. It's look, always see what's not seen, and so on like that.
Like that mesa that I was talking about. You eventually notice, there's a few river rounded cobbles there. Because you weren't really looking for that. And the original report said it was a big, wide quartz vein, which I've never found. So I don't know what to say. I found the rounded cobbles, and I think that's the real indicator of what this place was.
I don't think I've ever been on top of a mesa where I have found rounded cobbles that you just, that you can't come up with a conclusion of exactly what you said. It's part of an old church and so on like that. And these things happen. But yeah, it is, the report says a broken out quartz vein. Well, a broken out quartz vein like that is not going to have round cobbles. So you saw what was unseen and what other people had just simply walked over. Now, there is one thing that I don't know if this really fits in this topic, but I think this industry as a whole, especially with new prospectors and people just coming in, I think this industry as a whole has done some things that just really aren't the most conducive for helping people get out. But there's a couple of things like, where are you going to find gold? Well, where gold's already been found. Not necessarily always true. You get in the peripheral areas and it may have not been found there. But also, like go to the inside bend. Do you always find gold in the inside bend of the stream? We tell people, or this industry has told people in books and this and that, these are the places to go. And I will say in Fistful of Gold, one of the things that the other blatant pitch for the greatest book on prospecting ever written is that, it's okay. There's an inside bend. Is that the only place that you're going to find gold when you're looking at a stream? Absolutely not.
No.
Don't put yourself in a box. Get out of the box. I know I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We go because we can.
We can talk about rules of thumb later, but rules of thumb are rules of thumb. They're not ironclad.
Exactly.
In geology, there's almost an exception to every rule of thumb. I mean, there's always, in fact, there's often multiple exceptions to the rules of thumb. So maybe we should do a rules of thumb episode or podcast.
I would love that. When I was in school and I was studying oil field geology, because I thought that was going to be the way that I went, the first word was always, whenever we were going to get ready to start talking about the Scythian sands, or we were going to talk about this structure or that structure, the word was always the hypothesis is, and that's the word hypothesis is just real simple, best guess. Takeaways on
revisiting old spots.
Yeah, revisiting old spots.
The takeaway is that it's a balance. It's a balance. That's what the takeaway is, that you need to do both. That if you only go out and explore and just do a swing and a miss and a swing and a miss and a swing and a miss, you're going to have your confidence shaken. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to go back to some old spots and get some color, get some gold, get your confidence back, feel better about things, and then go back out and do some exploring. On the other hand, if you don't do the balance, but you go the other direction where you just hit the same old spot, same old spot, same old spot, you get diminishing returns, diminishing returns, diminishing returns until you're hardly getting anything. And then you start saying stuff like, it's all been found. There's no gold out there. It's all been dug, and so you get discouraged and your confidence is wrecked that way. So it's a successful prospecting is a balance.
It absolutely is. Confidence. You know what? I have nothing to add. You absolutely said everything. The only thing I would do is just absolutely reiterate that. But the one thing I am going to have to say is that we're going to end up having to do another podcast strictly about research, because in 2 or 3 of the podcasts now, we've really talked about the research, and we kind of covered some of the things that you do, some of the things that I do. But I think we're going to have to do a podcast that is just really how to do the research. Are you up for that one?
You betcha.
Okay. All right, folks, that is it for revisiting old spots or getting out and finding something new, having the confidence, never giving up, but knowing when to have that balance and always having that balance, not knowing when to, but always having that balance. So until the next time, have fun and prospect.